2027 election is getting interesting every day. Just yesterday, I shared a video. I came across that video online where supporters of former President Goodluck Jonathan went to his residence in Abuja, apparently to convince him to join the 2027 presidential race. So it's getting interesting. It reminds me of the last days of General Basha when we had a youth movement called Youth Honestly Aswa Basha. At the time, they went there campaigning across the country, begging the military dictator to run for presidency at the time. I'm not comparing President Goodluck Jonathan with Abacha, with all due respect to the former president. But the similarity is this: the similarity is Nigerians actually going to beg someone to come and contest. I would think that if someone wants to contest, I don't think you need Nigerians or you need supporters to go and beg that person to join the race. I would think that if former President Jonathan wants to serve the nation again, I don't think he needs anyone going to his residence to beg him to join the race or anything like that. But the important message is that 2027 is going to be a very significant election in the history of Nigeria. And I've said this a few times. It's an election where Nigerians must decide the future that they actually want. It is an election where Nigerians must, as a mantle of urgency, put aside their political affiliation or political party affiliations, put that aside and look thoroughly among people who have come out so far, to serve the country in terms of the permutations and who is going to get ticket from which party. There are many of them around for now. We are not exactly sure, but one thing is certain is that I don't see anyone taking that ticket from the Ikuben president, President Bola Tinubu in APC. So I think I can say confidently that President Tinubu would represent his party, the APC, in 2027 general elections. We know that the last time, earlier this week, Mr. Peter Obi, he left the ADC and moved across to NDC. So at the time he left the ADC, he left Atiku and some of other Atiku's supporters in that party. But for whatever reason, within a day or two, that Obi left ADC to move to NDC, news appeared again online suggesting that Atiku is also planning to move to NDC. I don't know exactly what's going on there. If someone move away from a party for you, I would think that Mr. Peter Obi left ADC because he felt that Atiku Abubakar, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and his supporters have, I won't say hijacked, but they're in control of the party. So he moved to another party, NDC. I don't know why they have to follow him to NDC, but for everything I've read, from everything I've read this week, it appears Atiku and his men and his supporters, they're on their way again to join Peter Obi in NDC. And the other parties that you see everyone around, I can see Omoyele Sowore, the chairman of African Action Congress, AAC. I don't see anyone getting the ticket from him in that party. But it's also a reflection on the politics in Nigeria, especially for someone like him, that is very critical of everything going on in the country. What I also think that he needs to have a deeper look, for him to continue to be the chairman of a party and also for him to continue since the uh, establishment of the party from memory around that 2018. I think the party was, established in 2018 for him to contest in 2019, and then he was the presidential candidate in 2019 and also the presidential candidate in 2023. And from the look of things, I see him again being the party presidential candidate in 2027. Well, that's a matter for him and his party members. Um, but broadly speaking, the most important message here is the need for Nigerians to look critically at some of these, candidates. Um, the incumbent president, as I've said many times, you have to assess him on what he has performed in the last 3 going to 4 years, going to 3 years by May 29th. I shared a video earlier where some people wanted to know what he has achieved since he has in office. And in all fairness, you cannot, even his major critics, you cannot say he hasn't done anything. He's done some reforms. The key question is how is the reforms in the economic sector, the reforms around socio-economic sectors that have been applauded globally by international organizations. As I said in that last video, the key question he has to answer uh, is how he's been able to transfer whatever benefits, whatever socio-economic gains from the policies, the macroeconomic gains, how he has been able to translate that to micro economic gains to families and workers and everyone in terms of the cost of living and their standard of living. I think that's a message as a leader. He has to be able to present that. And also on issues like national security, he needs to be able to, present his own report card for Nigerians to assess him. I think these are some of the key issues for him. And Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I don't know which party is going to come out, but I don't see him one way or the other not getting a party ticket. I think he's a maverick when it comes to politics. I don't see him losing out. I would see him one way or the other. He will emerge on the he will emerge on the ballots for that election. Um, with the look of things, I would think Mr. Peter will be also, he will play his game cleverly. He will emerge on the ballot box and a few other ones. But the key message is that Nigerians must decide the kind of country they want post 2027. They must, Nigerians must decide, whether President Tinubu is the best man for him to continue after 2027. And for him, they have to look at his records objectively. They have to look at the fact that, he's made some reforms. Some of the reforms are not really popular reforms, but they are reforms that must be made to build a proper and prosperous nation. And to his advantage, most of his critics, they've not really said anything concretely in terms of what he would do differently, in terms of some of those key policies. For example, removal of subsidy. Are they saying they're going to keep the subsidies? Are they saying they're going to continue to give billions to already wealthy Nigerians in that petroleum sector? And some other major reforms around the currency, they have to be able also, emotions aside, all other parochial sentiments, aside, we must also ask, as we ask Mr. President about his achievements and what he has achieved and what he hasn't achieved, it is within the rights of the voters to ask the questions. The society that I live for many years, that is how they do in elections. The government in power, they will present their report card. The opposition will tell people what they're going to do. And it's not just telling them what they're going to do. They will ask opposition as well what they did the last time they were in government. And I'm sure, yeah, the same thing. You ask Mr. Atiku Abubakar, he has history of being the vice president of this country. It's not just a man that is coming from nowhere. I know that the vice president is as good as the president under which he served. But in his time, he was a very powerful vice president. He was powerful that he nearly denied his president the return card uh, for the 2020, for the 2003, ticket of PDP. It was that powerful. And Mr. Peter Obi as well, they have to ask him as well what he intends to do. It's not new to governance. He was a governor for 8 years. He should be able to tell us what he did in Anambra State. And now he's be able to translate that. I had him recently talking about someone. They were asking him in an interview. They were asking him around his manifesto, because that's a good question. The election is going to be in January. This is, we don't even know under party which party is going to run. We don't know under which party Atiku is going to run. So what are his plans if you don't even have a party to run? Or it's reasonable and it's logical to ask about the programs and the manifesto of which party. So these are the questions that we must ask. We must put aside the emotions. There are so many emotions going on in the country at the moment. There's so many, just a lot of blackmailing, of one tribe against the other. There's lots of gaslighting. Uh, there's so many issues around religion. There's so many issues around, tribal sentiment and all of that. But we must all acknowledge the fact that it is a democracy and people have the right to that freedom of association and the political right to really canvass for whoever they want to support. People shouldn't be labeled as, as tribal bigots because they are supporting one person. So far you are civil and so far you are respectful in your engagement, it is within your political rights to support. I've seen Igbos supporting Tinubu and they are very loud about it. I see them on Facebook, at least with their names, and when you see some of them talk, you can really know which side of the country they are from. And I'll see you about supporting Mr. Peter Obi. I've seen Yoruba support, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. So I think people should be allowed to support whoever they want to support without being blackmailed, without being labeled, without being gaslighted in any shape or form. But we should just be respectful. I know that at the end of the day, we're not forcing anyone on anyone, because you cannot force a candidate on a nation. And also you have to know politics well, that no matter the level of support from a region, that region alone cannot make, your person the president. You have to get support votes from other regions, other tribes in the country. And how do you do that? How do you get support from other? If you're a supporter of Mr. Obi and you believe in him strongly, and you have every right to believe in him, strongly, because he has never been tested as a president. So you have that argument that, look, this man will do better. He has never been there. You have that conviction. That is fine. But you got to be respectful in the way you go about that's your engagement with people, or engagement with potential voters. If you really love him, you got to help him to get votes. You have to, in your engagement and interaction, you should leave an impression that people will have to think and say, okay, Even if they don't want to support him, they have to think twice about it. But if you go in on social media calling people names and all that, how do you think they're going to support? How do you think they're going to, support your candidate? It's not going to help him. So help your candidate. And if you are Tinubu supporter as well, the Yoruba votes alone will not make Tinubu president in 2027. They have all the calculations and everything, and whatever millions we come from this, whatever millions. Nothing is guaranteed. They are not. People are not robots. You cannot just say someone is River State, governor is in APC, whatever million votes is guaranteed from Rivers. You've been very disrespectful if you with that narrative. You've been very disrespectful because people are not robots. People go to the polling booth, they change their minds. Here is a very even here. I've gone to polling booth before. I generally vote Labour. I'm a Labour voter in elections there in Australia. I vote for Labour Party. But I've been in a few situations, especially in local elections, local like state election and council election, that I just walk into the polling booth that I'm not exactly sure who to vote for because local elections they can be funny. You may not even see them. You just see all these leaflets around everything. You might not even know the candidates, as in know them exactly, aside from the leaflets and everything. And at times I just walk into the polling booths and I'm making my mind right there as I'm getting leaflets, flyers from, party supporters because I still have to think, even though I'm a Labour voter, I know that I don't have to vote for them all the time, especially at the local elections when I don't know the candidate or whether I don't know exactly what they're going to do. Sometimes I make up my mind as I'm walking through, and I'm sure millions of people do that. We call them undecided voters. That is the name they call them. You're undecided voters. You don't know. Mostly at the federal elections and state elections, I know. But sometimes I still have to think, even opposition, sometimes they have a case. Like, look, I think this, even Labour, I support Labour well. I can see this, especially in the state. This party has been in the state for how long? What have they done? Is it time for a change? A lot of critical thinking. So I think the same thing, APC for argument's sake, don't get so cocky, don't get so arrogant about it with the way people allocate votes on social media that social state is gonna bring this, social state is gonna bring this, and all the projections. That wasn't the case in 2023. That wasn't the case, despite all the APC. Uh, Peter Obi was able to secure over 6 million votes. Nobody gave him that. Nobody projected that. Alaji Atiku Abubakar also secured over 6 million votes, more than some votes more than Mr. Peter Obi. And the incumbent, secured on top of mine over 8 million votes to win the election. It was very tight. And 2027 is going to be different. So what I'm saying is that no one should be cocky, no one should be arrogant, no one should think that there are millions of votes, whatever coming from Kano, that if got someone with us in Kano, whatever million votes is secured, if you're able to secure someone from Rivers, whatever million votes, people still have to make their decisions. The voters, they decide the votes. They are not robots. People change their mind, people make up their mind, and people exercise that fundamental right. So what I'm saying is this: if you are a Tinubu supporter, a diehard supporter of Tinubu, support the president. You have every right to support him. It is your political right to do that. But how do you support him? You support him by engaging people, maybe his opponents or people that are undecided about what to vote for. These are the people you engage with. And you make a case why they should support your candidate. Your bad votes alone will not make him the president. You have to talk to people in Southeast as well. No matter what you feel about that region, you think they're not going to vote for him anyway. But if you're a very loyal supporter of Mr. President, all you can do is to engage people from that side, even though they may not really agree with you. but at least to be able to canvass and do your own research. If they say he hasn't done anything, give them what you think he has done as an achievement. I made a post, a few days ago, and one of my friends was asking me, I said the president has not communicated his achievement very well. And I said that I based that on the premise because I believe he has done some things. I think he has done some things because he's been there, for going to 3 years now. And I also said in that video that I don't think he has communicated his achievement very well. But I also reiterate what people that know more than I do, people in the great economic institutions like IMF, World Bank, and all that, and even the World Trade Organization. I remember about a year ago or thereabout when Dr. Uh, I will remember one of these key Okoje-Iweala, yeah, just had a brain fade there. When the Dr. Okoje-Iweala, when she visited Mr. President, I remember after she stepped out of the interview, they were asking of the meeting with Mr. President, they were asking her thoughts about the state of things, and she gave. I remember clearly. You can check that video around the economic reforms, around the well, she she knows what she's talking about globally in terms of the economy and all the statistics and analysis and everything. Yeah. And she gave a very positive report card to the president. But I remember in that interview, she said the next stage for the government is now to translate whatever gains. We don't need to be a professor of economics to understand that. Whatever gains that have been achieved within the macroeconomics, everyone that has read an economic textbook, whatever, we know that to build the foundation of any sound nation, developed nation, you must have very strong macroeconomics around fiscal and monetary policies. You must have that, and then you can now build on that for other aspects of the economy. And that was what she said, that the next thing for the government is to translate the gains from the social, the macroeconomic gains, to translate that to directly impacting lives of Nigerians, of people going to the market to ensure that they lower inflation, to ensure that commodities and goods in the market are reasonable, to increase the purchasing power of consumers, and to look at building some what she called safety nets. You can go and check me out. That video, I saw that video. Should be, it's not up to a year, but I remember I saw that video, when Dr. Kojo Wheeler, after she had a one-on-one meeting with Mr. President, I think not one-on-one, she was there. I think there was another lady from one of these international organizations that was with her in that meeting. And then she was interviewed after the meeting with Mr. President. I remember that was what she said clearly, that the next stage is to transform to transfer all the gains within the economic, whatever reforms to positively affect Nigerians, and also to build safety nets, social safety nets. If you've ever lived overseas, most of the countries they have social safety nets. That is how they try to support people, within the gap of up there, people in the middle, and people that are doing it tough. They try to put on safety net, social safety net, so that no one falls through the cracks, so that people doing it tough can be supported. So that is the basis of, my engagement. And I said in that question, in that post, where a friend of mine was asking me, I should, present up the achievements of Tinubu's government. I said, look, I'm not Tinubu's spokesperson, I mean, jokingly, because I'm not, but I'm not going to be here and in a way say that he hasn't done anything. I don't think that would be fair. All I did was just to look online and look in the Guardian, a few Nigerian newspaper, and some other international reputable organization, what they've said about his achievement, especially in the economic sector. And I shared that link there, for him to read. My friend may agree with me after I read it. He may not agree with me, but I think I've been able to support what I said because I base my premise on the fact that he has done something, but he has not communicated his program clearly. Yeah, so I did that. So, and I'm saying exactly the same. You know, I've said it a few times. There's no one without their political or party affiliation. It is within everyone's right to have that. You know, my party affiliation was the APC, and the history is there. You know, the history, I can trace that history way back to at least as time that I can say, okay, I know what is going on about election in the country from my father. I can trace that back, that whatever structure you know about politics, everybody you learn it from where you came from. I learned that from my dad within his political involvement as a community leader, you know, in my hometown of Adod. I knew that he was voting for UPN. I knew that he was voting for UPN. Even though as a kid you can't really conceptualize why someone is supporting UPN or some people are supporting MPN, the two major parties in the Second Republic. I knew my dad and the household were supporters of UPN. And I knew after they went all that all the failure of military taking over and everything, I knew when we returned to democracy, and they were forming all the parties. He was supporting SDP. I knew he voted for um, Abiola in 1993 election, and that was his last election because 5 months after my father passed away, he passed in November 1993. So he wasn't around to see all the major dramas about that happened after that 1993. But I remember clearly he voted SDP, because that was kind of the party, the kind of his own alliance, and I follow that same pattern, SDP, to AD and to AC, ACN, and yeah, so there is no big deal there. People disclosing their party affiliation. I think the funny one is when people hide. I don't hide. I will tell you. I may not be saying my party affiliation all the time, but I know everyone has their own party affiliation, and there's nothing wrong to have party affiliation. That's what politics, they say we are political animals. So there's nothing wrong to have your party affiliation. What is more dangerous is when you have your sentiments and our party affiliation and you're hiding. I see a lot of people just making posts and they try just to, in a way, to be half. I think maybe they think they are clever, but people can see through the hypocrisy. You can see this is where they are lying with, for argument's sake, you can see this person is aligned with Peter Obi, but they are posting and try to be neutral, whatever. No one is completely neutral. But what I can say is that you can be objective. That is where I want to be. I want to be objective. I want to say, even though I have affiliation with APC or my ideology, aligns with APC as a party, but I may have some disagreement in the way they do, or some of their party members, or even their party leaders. And that is me, and I will express that. I don't agree with a young man that has been there in Surulere for 3 times. He's done that. He's a young man, maybe around my age, and now he wants to probably, I don't know exactly, but I'm sure I'm in my early 50s. I think maybe he's also in his 50s, begging to represent the same place for the 4th time. I don't think a man in his age should be playing that kind of politics. If you've been there for 3 times, I think that is more than enough for you. It's not your birthright. Look for other things to do. If you haven't been able to work it out, that after 12 years in representing a constituency at the State House of Assembly, if you haven't worked out what next you want to do, then that is your problem. That is your problem, and you'll be able to fix that. And it's not your birthright to continue to represent the people. It is not your birthright to continue to feed fat on government's money. Go and decide on what next to do. And I would think across other different political parties that you'll be able to have that kind of conversation. You should also be able, if you are not supporting, if you are obedient or you're supporting Mr. Peter Obi, It is your right to do that, but be reasonable and be able to engage with others and try not to be like a one traffic, you know, kind of ideology that you don't want to even be challenged. You don't want anyone to even ask you questions. You see the post, you already calling some sector of the country names, you're calling Yoruba some names, you're calling some people up north some ridiculous names, and you think these people, you will bully them to vote for Peter Obi. Politics doesn't work that way. Even there are people who have what they call protest votes. That people may even like your candidate as a person. Because come to think about it, like it's likable, like Peter Obi. He's likable. He's a gentleman. He goes around saying what he has to say. Um, Personally, I think he has to tell us more why we should vote for him, not just on sentiment that he's just the key opposition leader for now. That we just vote for him. I want to see more of people. I still have some within. If they ask me to list about three politicians from the southeast that I really feel they are more deserving than Peter Obi. I can name them. But that is just me. That is how I feel. I have qualities that I look in leaders in terms of the articulation, in the time things they do, in terms of their history, in terms of how convincing that they are when they talk. I know people say talk is cheap, but you have to tell people what you want to do, and you'll be able to clearly articulate what you want to do. I don't really get that in Peter Obi, but that is not to say that I'll be out there blackmailing him, or I'll be out there cooking up stories or negative stories about him. I may share videos where he says something that I don't know exactly what he's saying, or you want to ask more, but I know that he has millions of voters, and I have to respect that. Millions of people voted for him at the last election. There must be something they saw in him in 2023 that made over 6 million people at that election, against all odds, over 6 million people voted for him. No matter what I think about him or whatever, I have to respect that. And I think that I have to respect that as well. If you are a strong APC member, you cannot just ignore him. If you do that, at your own peril, because over 6 million people voted for him last election. I will know, maybe more people will even vote for him this time around. So you have to take him seriously. You have to take him as a serious challenger. And Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I have fundamental issue with him. His own thing is that for whatever reason, he completely ignores the kind of the agreement between North and South. There's an agreement there. It may not be written somewhere else, or maybe written somewhere in black and white, but I think there's a kind of just respectful agreement because of the diversity of our country, that you allow the South to do what they have to do for 8 years, and when it rotates, and when it comes to South, whether it's going to Southwest, Southeast, South, South must decide on that. The political parties must decide on that. And when it is the time for the North, they do the same thing. My fundamental issue with Atiku is because of his complete disregard for that. Because either we like it or not, that kind of arrangement has, to some degree, helped to cement to some degree, national unity. When you know that, okay, North will do their 8 years. Buhari did his 8 years. We all saw what happened. Even as I've said earlier, I have party affiliation with APC. I supported Buhari in his first term. I campaigned and did my only to support his campaign when it was, vying for presidency um, in 2015. But within a couple of years into his first term, I knew we've got it wrong. I knew we got it wrong, that the Buhari we thought we voted for, or the Buhari we thought we had, we were looking at Buhari we had in 1984, 85 as a military, head of state. the Buhari we had when we elected in 2015 was different. You know, it was a different person. He was old. He didn't have the energy. And I made my position known publicly that I wasn't supporting him, and that was even within his first time, or within his first 2 years of his first time. I knew, we got it wrong. And obviously, I didn't support his campaign in the following election in 2019, and that was all my postings from that time. They're all on social media, especially on my Facebook page. Um, but for Atiku, he disregarded that in 2023, Buhari just completed, 8 years. And I felt that he was so disrespectful because he was just focused on his own ambition. And it was so disrespectful that he felt that, and now, Buhari just completed 8 years and he wanted to continue to serve after that. I felt that was rude. I felt that was disrespectful. And I still feel the same now, that they shouldn't be in that race. Even if people want to sort it out among themselves, let the South, based on that rotational arrangement, everything is still within the South, at least um, till 2031, and then power can go back to the North. I'm not saying it's the best arrangement. The society that I live, we don't have an arrangement that, okay, the labor, excuse me, the prime minister would come from New South Wales or come from Victoria or Queensland or whatever state, or there's nothing like that. But every society have their peculiarities and things, that are unique. What is unique to us is we have this diversity, religion, around tribes, around, ethnicity and everything. And one way or the other, there must be something in place so that one region will not completely dominate others. So, and I align with that logic. So I have fundamental issue with Atiku contesting in 2023 because he disregarded that arrangement and it was disrespectful, and I think it's still disrespectful, for him trying to take over power, returning to the North when, with everything that we know, he's still within, this South, whether Southwest, Southeast, or South, till 2031. Yeah, so I think this is gonna be is already a very lengthy one. But the points that I'll summarize my points. 2027 election will make many difference. Either we get it right or we get it wrong. I'm sure it is important we get it right as a nation. I think it's very important we get it right and elect leaders that will really take us to the next level. Is it going to be President Tinubu that will continue? I don't really know. Nigerians will decide. He is currently there. He has every right to seek re-election, but Nigerians also have rights to vote for him or not to vote for him. Nothing is granted. Um, Nothing is guaranteed. He has to make a case and strongly make a case on why people should vote for him. I think it's as simple as that. He has to be able to present his card because he has all the apparatus of the state as is the incumbent president, and what he has been able to do. It is up to him and his team to be able to communicate that to Nigerians to ask for re-election. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I've stated my fundamental difference or fundamental issue I had with his candidacy in 2023, and I still have the same fundamental difference with him, contesting in 2027. I wish him luck. And Mr. Peter Obi, he got 6 million votes over. I think he can communicate better in terms of what he really wants to do. But I also think that his supporters and President Tinubu's supporters should help their candidates by engaging with people, maybe engaging with opposition, by selling the good side of their candidate, not in a combative manner, not in a disrespectful manner, not in a bullying manner, not in a manner that they want to shut down anyone that's got anything to say or anything you perceive to be wrong about Peter Obi. You cannot do that. You cannot bully people out of talking or contesting or voting. People will still vote. And if you really want to help your man, help him by being polite and engage people, because bullying people and being aggressive will not make people to go to the polling booth in 2027 to vote for him. It doesn't work that way. So, but the most important thing is that at the end of the election, we should be able to, if you're going to re-elect President Tinubu, if that's the position of Nigerians, then he should be humbled to know that they've given him the opportunity again, and he should know that he's got 4 years to do and listen to critics. That I said in my last video about him saying, people can't see what he's done, if you go and buy eyeglasses. I don't think that is how you really support people or you really encourage people to vote for you. I don't think that is how to really persuade people to vote for you. I don't think it is up to people to start looking around for what you've done. I think, democracy is funny. Some people will ask you some silly questions. Yeah, people do ask very silly questions. But you are the one that you put yourself there that you want to serve. You are the one that you're looking for their votes. You may think that the question is silly. Your supporters or your spokesperson may think the question is silly, but you still want people to vote for you. It is one of those tricky things. You still have to go out there and convince them to vote for your candidate. I'm able to answer even their so-called silly questions. It's not like if you can't see, go and get your eyeglasses to see. Enough said on that. And also to Mr. Peter Obi supporters, help if you want to help your man to win, engage positively, engage intellectually, and engage people with respect. I'm saying this based on what I've observed, online. And I like Atiku Abubakar and even Showore and others. I wish all of you luck. So I'll stop here on this edition of the program. We hope we get a better Nigeria. That's why I talk and do what I do here on Footprints. I remain your host, Wale Olaiton. Bye for now.